Spain, 1938. A nation torn apart by civil war. The Republican forces, fighting for democracy and reform, stand against General Franco's Nationalists, who seek to impose conservative rule. The world watches as the fate of Spain hangs in the balance. And in the summer of 1938, the longest and bloodiest battle of the Spanish Civil War unfolds in the Ebro River Valley. This is the Battle of the Delta de Ebro. By mid-1938, the Spanish Civil War was reaching its climax. The Republican forces, weakened but determined, launched a daring offensive across the Ebro River, attempting to regain lost ground. Their objective: to disrupt Franco's advances and shift the momentum of the war. Under the cover of darkness, on July 25th, 1938, thousands of Republican soldiers waded across the river, catching the Nationalists by surprise. Franco's forces, equipped with superior weaponry and backed by Nazi Germany's Luftwaffe and Italy's Air Force, launched a devastating counteroffensive. The Condor Legion's Messerschmitt fighters dominated the skies, raining destruction upon the Republican ranks. Without adequate air support, Republican forces suffered heavily. For months, the battle raged on. The landscape of the Ebro Valley was transformed into a nightmare of mud, blood, and fire. Casualties mounted. Between 50,000 and 110,000 soldiers perished, many of them young, inexperienced fighters who had volunteered in hopes of defending democracy. As winter approached, the tide turned decisively against the Republicans. Exhausted, outgunned, and outnumbered, they were forced into a desperate retreat. By November 1938, the battle was over. The Nationalists had won. The Republic had lost its last great hope. The aftermath was devastating. Thousands of civilians fled their homes, seeking refuge in France. Towns were left in ruins. The psychological scars of war ran deep, and as Franco's forces consolidated power, the fate of Spain was sealed. Less than a year later, in 1939, Madrid fell, and Franco's dictatorship began, a rule that would last nearly 4 decades. The psychological toll on civilians became apparent. Many individuals were left to grapple with the trauma of violence, loss, and the destruction of their communities. The battle also caused a fragmentation of community identity, eroding traditional bonds that had historically provided support and security. This disruption manifested in heightened aggression, increased isolation, and a pervasive sense of alienation. The normalization of violence became a troubling legacy of the conflict. Today, the Battle of the Ebro is remembered as one of the most tragic chapters in Spanish history. The ruins of Ebro River stand as a silent witness to the horrors of war. Monuments and museums tell the stories of those who fought, those who died, and those who survived to bear witness. The Battle of the Delta de Ebro was more than just a military confrontation. It was a battle for ideals, for the future of a nation. Though the Republicans lost, their fight for democracy would not be forgotten. Their sacrifice remains a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. This has been a look into the past, a story of courage, sacrifice, and the enduring cost of war. May history never forget the lessons of the Battle of the Delta de Ebro.